guys, welcome back to Mesa Gardens Zoo, our current franchise series set on a desert map. And in the first episode, we added these flamingos here. And if you caught that episode, you might notice that I've made a little bit of changes. I sat down and I added a lot more detail to this habitat because I just wanted to make sure that we had time to add our next animal today. So I switched up the roof on our backstage building just a little bit. I actually made it a building, so it has I forgot that part. So I made it mostly a building. I also added a water filtration system on the inside. I had forgotten that, and while I was building, they got very, very angry because they had very dirty water. I changed the coloration on our little pool here so that it matches the rocks. And then I just brought in a whole bunch of other rocks, plants, foliage, and things like that. I really wanted to use a variety of different things. So you can see I brought in a mapingo tree over here, a couple palm trees, just things all over the place to give it a variety of different textures and colors and things like that. I added all these little sticks as a way to keep the flamingos in the water. I originally was toying with some sort of like wire or something like that, but I really want to keep all those kind of earthy tones and the natural textures and stuff like that in this habitat. So I like that a whole lot more. I did edit, if we take a look here, I edited the barrier to leave out all of this stuff, but then I added all of this stuff here, and actually I probably can adjust that quite a bit because that does not need to be way out there. So maybe we'll do this and kind of try to exclude some of that stuff from their habitat because their foliage percentage is way over. But if you take a look at them, you can see that they still have positive welfare. I did increase their meal quality just because their hard shelter is so low, and I want to make sure that they stay within the green, and we're kind of right on the edge right there. So as soon as they get fed again, they'll get the meal quality too. We're doing great on money. If you look down here in the left-hand corner, I let it play for quite a while just to kind of gain money, and that way we can build in this episode, because that's what we always want to try to do, is add another animal. So yeah, I think things are going really, really well. They're right on the verge of it being too small. So I did actually rehome, I think, 4 or 5 flamingos. And then they've had babies since then. Check this out. Look at the cute little baby taking a nap in his little foraging pond, which is rather stinky. Can somebody come take care of this, please? Because he's sleeping in his filth, and we don't want that. But yeah, so we have a little baby right there. We have another little baby somewhere over here. Yeah, right there. So babies, good thing. We're going to have to keep control of the population in here. Oh, we have a third baby. Yeah, we're going to really have to keep control of the population in here because it is very easily, I feel, going to get out of hand. I also replaced the railing on this bridge with the custom railing that I included last time. And I added this little custom sign to this little art piece that I placed last time. I forgot to mention it, but yeah, I placed it there last time with the intention of making it like a little custom sign. So that is what I did. These guys are doing totally fine. They've had a couple babies, and we actually need to... Oh, they've had a lot of babies. Just kidding. So I was going to say we need to set up the like automated seller mechanic, right? Is that what it's called? Management, right? So population, we want the max males to be number 1. So we do want it to manage. First of all, we're going to turn this off. We want the max number of males to be 1. We want the rest of them to be sold for cash. Or, you know what? No, they'll go to the trade center. That's fine. Age appeal. Highest first, I think. That means it'll keep them, right? No exceptions, because I don't care who it keeps. Max number of female, yes, is 1. Store in the trade center, and then we want it by appeal as well, highest first. So we'll set that up and let that go. because then we can have a little bit more control over whether we sell them or if we need more of them for whatever reason. So we'll do the same thing here. Max number of males. We do want just one. Store in the trade center. Appeal highest first. No exceptions. Max number of females. Holy cow. No, we want one. Appeal highest first. Store in trade center. Okay, great. So that is all set up there. And I'm guessing, oh no, we actually only have 1 and 1. So yeah, so those guys are doing great. That is set up now. Plans for today. Let's see, what else did I do? Oh, I lowered the salary on many of our staff members so that they are all being paid exactly the amount that they need to be happy, no more, no less. So that is great. That should hopefully help us with a lot of our money making stuff. And yeah, that's about all that I have done in between sessions. So today, I want to start on our red-crowned crane enclosure, which is going to be here. So I have a reference picture for another kind of colorful building, which I think I will kind of put off to the side here. And essentially, I'm going to use a lot of the same decorations, the fences, the gates, things like that over on this side, because I do want it to look very symmetrical as you come in. We'll add maybe some more benches over here. And then the thought being that maybe right here or on the other side, I want to open it up to food rather quickly. And that way, because obviously the zoo starts here, so they've already walked quite a ways once they have gotten to this area over here. So maybe we do either, actually, you know what, this might be a good location for a little food space. Let me know what you think. Food here or over here. If we do it over here, we could potentially make it overlook another habitat. But if we do put it here, we're going to go outside our little border. So we would have to think about energy costs versus if we kind of put it over here, it's within our energy border already. So things to take into consideration. But yeah, I think we're going to jump into our time lapse rather quickly because I'm excited to keep building. I literally just finished building this before recording this voiceover part, and I had to stop myself so that way I didn't build too much without you guys because I don't want to leave you behind. So let's go ahead and jump into our time lapse right now. So our time lapse is only going to be a little over 10 minutes or so. This build was a whole lot easier just because I already had such a good foundation from doing the flamingo habitat. And as I mentioned, I wanted to use a lot of the same style and things like that on the opposite side of our bridge because I really wanted the entrance of the zoo to remain cohesive. So what I'm doing is I'm starting off on the little service building that does have a little bit of theming to go with the habitat. I am still working off of actually the same reference picture. The reference picture that I have actually has a house thing or a building thing on either side, one of which is the building that we built for the flamingo habitat, and then this one is on the opposite side. Again, just bringing in some color that I would normally never touch. I don't build with bright colors like this. I rarely ever do anything with pink. It's just not one of my colors, but I'm really happy with how this turned out. I will say that I want to find a way to bring just a little bit more foliage into the exhibit, and please do let me know your guys' ideas when you do see this all complete. I'm not really worried about their requirements or their happiness or anything like that. Many of you pointed out in the last episode that you can really go above and beyond their foliage requirement, and it really doesn't affect their welfare too much, especially since we're playing on medium hard mode. It definitely doesn't seem to make a difference. They get upset about it, and it says that they're upset about it, but it really doesn't have any actual consequences. So because there's no actual consequences, I'm just gonna put whatever I feel like and whatever looks good. So do let me know how you think we might be able to add some more foliage or what types of plants or things like that. Because I want it to look a little greener. Originally, when I was starting this desert project, I had in my mind desert like cacti and things like that, but now I'm leaning more towards like African grassland, almost desert, just because I am enjoying putting all the trees and all the plants and things all over the exhibit, and I think it just makes the builds kind of pop out. They contrast with the background a whole lot better. Sorry, I said contrast with a really weird intonation. Sounded funny to me. So we're starting on the other exhibit here, and much to my surprise, I actually was able to adjust that water and the path with like minimal issue. Normally paths and water are my personal nightmare, and I hate dealing with them, and I kind of get the water in, put the path where it needs to be, and then I don't touch it forever because it's such a pain to move around. But it worked out for me. When I was looking at the habitat before altering the water, it just looked too big, and these birds really don't need a whole lot of space, and I want to try to kind of pay attention to sort of somewhat realism. So realism inspired is what I always say. And I didn't want them to have these vast, sprawling habitats, especially with so much water and so little land. So I'm really happy with how it turned out, adjusting the water and how it looks. I do need to go back and recolor it and make it not so transparent, just so that it matches kind of that dirty, little bit mucky water that, you know, waterfowl tend to have because they're gross and they poop all the time, so their water is always gross. But we're just copying over the railing from the other side and copying it onto the bridge as I did in the off-camera building section. And then from here on out, it's basically just copying over certain aspects of the build and certain design elements from the build over to this one as well. I'm really happy that I started with both the red crown crane and the flamingo. I think that they fit in really well at the front of a zoo. And it's kind of a non-traditional start, I guess, to a desert style zoo. At least maybe the red crown cranes are. Flamingos always belong in the front, as I mentioned before. But the red crown cranes are something a little different. Something I've actually only built for once before. So I was really excited to add them again. Now, I did throw in 2 of them while I was doing this speed build just to get scaling and honestly to get a thumbnail picture, because I did that first before recording this. And so I do think we need to add a couple more. Their space is a bit tight. So we do want to make sure that there's going to be room for babies and they're not going to get upset by that. So I need to double check that when we're done. But other than that, I think I added donation bins. I think I even added benches. So there's not too much that we need to do other than maybe to continue that little barrier. I forgot to do it all across the front, the little wood sticks sticking up. Oh, that's right. I do remember when I put the red crown cranes in, I actually find that this habitat is a bit too small, like really small, where 2 of them were just kind of barely happy. So I think I end up pushing that back fence out just a bit, and maybe the left side fence as well, and kind of leaving the house kind of stuck in a little, just to give them a little bit more land space. Because as I just mentioned, we want to make sure that they can have babies and they can be happy. That's me checking the terrain requirements and then realizing, yeah, here we go, just like I was saying. I actually recorded this build segment a few days ago, and now I'm doing the recording, so I'm trying to remember exactly what I did. And I actually haven't, as of the time of recording this voiceover, haven't done the end part yet. So I'm going to jump into that right as soon as I'm done. And we'll kind of take a look around and talk about my future plans for the next animal and the park and all that kind of stuff. And we have some flamingos to name. So that being said, now that we have some red-crowned cranes as well, if you guys have any name suggestions, I'm basically taking all the names that I see down in the comment section below and giving them to animals. So all you have to do is comment what your name suggestion should be. It does, of course, have to be appropriate, and I'll name our animals based on what you guys want to have them named as. I didn't really name anything in our last franchise project, and I want to change that. I want to make sure our animals have names. I want to make sure that we get attached to them and then ultimately get upset when they pass away. But that is the life of having animals, right? So we're moving on to the foliage here. And again, just using the same kind of thing. I was really trying to pick grasslandy, desert-looking plants to give that contrast between the ground and the greenery. Love the grass pieces, as always, my favorite thing. And looking at it now, I think we could potentially add more rocks. I think we could always add more rocks, right? An exhibit is never complete. It always could use more rocks. Just outlining the pool here to make it look like it is a completely plastered in or concreted body of water. I just realized now that I forgot to add drains because I always forget to add drains. So I'll need to go in and add those decals after we're done. Hopefully I remember to do that. If I don't remember to do that, yell at me. Remind me, because I'm really terrible at remembering to add the drains. But yeah, that way it just looks like a completely concreted in little body of water and gives it a little bit more of that realistic touch. We're doing kind of the back planter area of the habitat now, just to give it a little bit more of a backdrop and kind of fill in spaces that need to be filled in so it's not so blank. These guys actually have a very liberal terrain. What am I trying to say? Traversable terrain is what I was trying to say. They can really kind of go everywhere, and at least in the time that I was kind of watching them to get the thumbnail picture and stuff like that, they spend a lot of time jumping back and forth from the rocks of their little foraging pond to the decorative rocks and kind of walking right up along the guest edge. So that's probably another reason why I need to make sure to add those habitat beams or habitat logs up front, just to make sure that they stay back. They are not in danger of escaping. They definitely can't escape. It's just not that realistic when they're kind of climbing all over the rocks on the edge of their pool up by the guests, because I want them to go in the water. I want them to hang out in the water. And actually, I do need to check. I guess I just checked there. They can actually go in the water, so that is good. I just kind of blocked off a little bit around those buildings to just kind of get a feel of how the backdrop is going to look, because right now my struggle is I think the habitats look great and I'm really happy with how they're coming out, but they have such a blank, bland background that I'm not used to, because the desert map obviously doesn't really have a lot going on in the background. And so because our zoo is not built, there's not a lot outside of the habitat yet. So I just threw up those walls just to kind of get a feel of what it might look like, because those walls from the conservation pack are probably the walls that I'm going to use the majority of for the building, the entrance building and things, with maybe like a stone detail on the bottom and some trim work and stuff like that. We're moving on. I wanted to make sure that I added some structural guest shade objects or items, or structures, I guess is the best way to describe it, to make sure that they are shaded, of course, from something other than just trees. And I thought these were kind of funky. Again, this franchise project is really bringing me out of my normal, usual style. And I'm really liking that. It's really kind of challenging me. It's making me use items or objects that I might not necessarily have used before, and just build in a style that I'm not super familiar with or comfortable with. Again, trying to use lots of colors. So I'm adding in this yellow here to kind of hold those beams onto the side of the shade structure. And this shade structure overall is kind of a shape and a style that I would not normally have picked, but it was in the reference picture that I was using for both of these habitats. So I figured, why not? Let's go for it. Let's see what we can do. This shade structure, along with the fences and a couple of the other objects like the front fence and the back fence and things like that, I kind of want to put together in a little workshop packet for you guys so that you guys can use the similar styled things that I'm using for this habitat. I probably won't put the entire habitats up on the workshop just because they're not built so that they would transfer well. But little objects like this that I build obviously are really easy to kind of click and place and drop and put in your own project. So I do plan to do that as well. So here is the very end of the time lapse. We're adding just a couple benches. I don't like those benches. I end up removing them. A couple benches and a couple plants to this planter just to kind of finish off some of the details. And yeah. So let's go ahead. Oh, that's right. And I did put some security down just to make sure guests are being mindful. So far, no problems with stress, but I just want to be safe rather than sorry and just make sure. So let's go ahead and jump back into the real time right now. So now that we have these guys in here, I do want to double check. There should be 4 of them. I want to double check how happy they are. Looks like social is struggling because of space. But it doesn't look too bad. Overall, 78% on their welfare. Is there anything else we can kind of improve? There's no interspecies bonus. I don't actually know what that would be, but we'll take a look at their Zoopedia in just a second. They could use a little more toy enrichment, but I also wonder, have we done research on these guys? I highly doubt it, because I don't think I have ever had these in the zoo before. That's the mechanical research. So yeah, there we go. Let's start researching those guys. And then maybe they have some additional enrichment. Although I was pretty sure they share almost everything with the flamingos. But let's take a look at their Zoopedia real quick and just see what their ideal group size is. Okay, perfect. So 4 to 80. We definitely will not be fitting 80 in this here. They're neutral to human, so we should hopefully, fingers crossed, not have any issues with stress for them. Perfect. So I think that is good for, oh, how come you are so much lower? Habitat, temperature. Oh, what temperature do you guys have to be at? We might have to use those really unrealistic coolers and heaters. So -13 to 31 degrees. And what degree is it now? I always forget where this stuff is. It's 43. So we need some coolers. So I'm just going to sink those under the ground. I forget what menu it's in. Sink those under the ground because I really don't like how they look. And they are a little bit unrealistic. So we'll just put a couple around. Let's scoot this one maybe over here. And set them to, their range is as big as it can be, maybe to 25, maybe? One more? There we go. Perfect. So hopefully that should work to cool it off. I'll just duplicate this one since I already set it. That is probably the smart thing to do. Up like this, and then we'll take both of them and put them under the ground. So then hopefully that still works, right? Let's look at our heat map. Is that going to work if they're all the way under there? Yes. Okay, perfect. That one is. This one is not. So we may have to raise that one up, but that cools the majority of the habitat. So that should be good. What about this one? You can see little steam or smoke, probably steam, coming up from the water there. If I raise this up to just above the water, or just above the plaster rather, maybe this won't work in water. Oh, you know what? Don't we have now a water cooling thingamajiggy? Yeah, water temperature regulator. Oh, another thing that we have to place down. Where did I put the other one? I put it in the house back here. So maybe we try to fit another one right next to here, because I think this is a bit cramped in here. Maybe we might be able to fit both of these in this little house, and then hopefully that reaches the other side as well. Let's put that there for now, and then maybe select both of them. Let's see, select that one and this one. Can we do that? And move them both over. Oh, they just barely fit, but perfect. Let's see if we can connect that path up there. We can always extend. Oh, we'll have to make this a little bit taller, but I'm not going to worry about that for now. We're just worrying about getting these guys connected. Oh, I put it the wrong way. That's really not helpful. Let's spin it around. I've never actually used one of these before, so I'm not quite sure how they work. Can I guess I have to just pick it up, spin it. Great, perfect. Did that connect to the path? Let's see. Getting inside this building, it did. Okay, great. So now I'm guessing, yeah, we just set this to whatever temperature we want it to be. So I'm going to set it to, again, 25, the same that the enclosure is. And that should be good for the flamingos as well as the red crown cranes. So let's take a look at our heat map again. Yeah, that's much better. And there's a huge range on this thing. So we'll be able to control all the other habitats over there as well. So these guys should... There we go. Much better. So yeah, 78% welfare. That is great. I wish their space was a little bit better, but there's not... I mean, I really don't want to make it any bigger because it would be just huge for them, like huge looking for them, right? And they pretty much can walk on everything that I built so far. So the only option would be to kind of push this wall back and give them a little more space. Let's just see how we go with this. And if they have babies and they start to get really upset, we might have to revisit that. But so far, I mean, I'm really happy with how this looks. I added this little barrier after recording the time lapse because I had forgotten. We have these little shade structures for guests, so I think that's great. I'm really happy with how this turned out. As I mentioned in the voiceover, I kind of want to add maybe some more foliage just to give this a little bit more detail and stuff. But yeah, this habitat in this front entrance area is looking just how I wanted it. So I'm very excited. We're going to have to set up a work zone. We are getting a little bit of congestion here, which is not great. But as I mentioned, we'll probably do like an exit over here. And then obviously the guests don't know the difference between the entrance and the exit, and they might use both paths, which will alleviate some of this a little bit. So I think that is our next step. As far as next animal goes, I'm not quite sure what I want to add. But before we get to that, I actually just remembered I need to name some flamingos. So let's go over here and let's name some flamingos. I have a list here from the comments of my last video. So let me just go ahead and bring it up. First name we have is Martini, and I'm just going to be clicking on random flamingos. So Martini. Perfect. I think that's an adorable little name. You are going to be Feathers. Very apt name for a bird. Perfect. Martini, Feathers, and Persiu, which is spelled Persia, but it said Persiu, is at least what the comment said. So there we go. There are our first 3 named animals in the zoo. And if you have any comments or suggestions rather on names for either the flamingos or we have 4 red-crowned cranes to name, do definitely let me know. And I can get rid of this now because it's not doing anything. You can let me know. But yeah, I think we're just about to wrap it up on this episode. Let me raise the price on our zoo tickets really quick because people are complaining. I think we can go to maybe $8 because we have 2 very beautiful habitats and 2 very cool animals. These guys are the highest appeal there. But yeah, next animal, I'm thinking I want to add a mammal. I was thinking maybe another smaller mammal like the prairie dog or the meerkat, but I'm not quite sure. So as always, of course, open to suggestions. We were talking about doing like a food court over here maybe, or keeping it in here. That way it's within our energy little barrier here. But yeah, definitely let me know. I'm really happy with how this little zoo is turning out so far, and look at it in the sunrise lighting. We got education, we've got trash cans. So far, so good. No trash on the ground, so that is great. But yeah, our little red crown cranes are in. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, as always, Leave a like on the video, comment down below those name suggestions and animal suggestions. You can follow me on any of my other social media accounts. All those links are down in the description below. And of course, we do have some fun animal-themed merch on my website. That link is down there as well. If you're looking for some fun stickers or pins and want to support the channel a little bit, I greatly appreciate it. But until next time, I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye!